What is up, YouTube? My name is Michaela, and today I want to talk about the movie Amber Alert. So this is going to be like a discussion / review. I'll do spoiler-free first, and then I'll jump into a more detailed discussion of the movie. When a group of friends decides to follow a car they've seen posted on an Amber Alert, things start to go very wrong. This movie was released in 2012 and directed by Cary Bellessa. This is a found footage movie. It's obviously very low budget. I don't think it's very well known at all. I don't think I've ever seen anyone talk about this movie. And after watching the movie, that doesn't really surprise me. But I do really enjoy watching very low budget, unknown horror movies, especially found footage. I feel like they have a lot of character even when they're not good. So I'm probably gonna make it a point to watch and review more of those kinds of movies. But anyway, getting into the movie. So the main characters' names are Nathan Riley and Samantha Green, and they are filming an audition tape for a reality series of some sort. Didn't really tell you until the very end. I guess it doesn't really matter. So that goes on for a pretty brief amount of time before you actually get into the main plot of the movie. The main characters in the movie, who they refer to each other as Nate and Sam, are super quirky little goofballs. And I know that that sounds like I'm making fun of them, but I actually do like these characters. I think they're like funny in a likable way, not in like a really annoying, I want to punch you in the face kind of way. I don't find them to be overly obnoxious like a lot of other characters in found footage movies. I feel like usually in found footage, it's like a dude and his girlfriend, and the dude like thinks he's funny. He's trying like really hard to be funny, but he's just a huge asshole. He's like super offensive and insensitive and annoying, and usually like really disrespectful to his girlfriend. And the girlfriend's usually like, oh, hi, you're so silly. You know, just they don't ever want to give the woman a personality. But I didn't really get that here. I think that they are pretty likable characters, which is really, really refreshing for this kind of movie. I wasn't like irritated at them the whole time. Well, I guess maybe the length of some of their conversations was a little bit irritating, but the characters specifically did not irritate me. I might be in the minority on this. I feel like a lot of low budget found footage horror have pretty like natural feeling dialogue. Like the characters might be annoying and maybe a little unrealistic, but the dialogue still feels natural for the characters that they are. I don't know if it's because there's less pressure, because it's not like a huge camera crew. A lot of the times it's like two people and probably some other guy with a camera. I don't know how it works. I don't know why I'm saying this. It just seems like that's how it works. I can't imagine there being a big crew for movies like this, or like Willow Creek, or I don't know why I can't think of another example. Anyway, yeah, this movie does a really good job with the dialogue too. It feels really natural. I don't know if most of this was like, you know, improvised. I don't know how strict the script was or anything like that. It doesn't sound like it was like very strict and pre-written. It sounds more like the actors were given certain guidelines and kind of just bounced back and forth off of each other. It worked really well. The dynamic that they have, it's like Nate obviously has like a little bit of a crush on Sam. It's not a spoiler. It's not a big plot point or anything. They're like the funny kids. They're not kids, they're adults, obviously, but you know, they're like the goofy, funny hipsters who are, you know, really comfortable with each other. They have a lot of chemistry. Nothing's really awkward. So from the description of the movie, you know that they're gonna be in a car for at least some period of the movie. And they actually have Sam's little brother Caleb with them to film. And Caleb's always holding the camera. He was only on camera in like the first scene, and then the entire rest of the movie he's behind it. You don't get to see him. But the whole time they're in the car, he's like behind the camera, just making the funniest little remarks. And it's not like they're super like witty or anything like that. You know, he's not a comedian. It's funny in a super realistic way because he absolutely just sounds like somebody's little brother. I don't think this is really gonna be a spoiler. At one point when they're talking about the cops being busy, he says they're probably just eating donuts. And I audibly laughed at that. But like the other two aren't even listening to anything that he's saying because, you know, he's her little brother. Nobody listens to their little siblings. He's just there to work. Something I thought was kind of weird was Sam was like smiling throughout the entire movie. It wasn't like a big smile, but just like a subtle like smirk on her face almost the entire time. And I thought of like 3 reasons for this. One, it might just be the actor's nerves from being on camera, like the actor, just trying to act natural, but knowing that she's being recorded the whole time and that this is gonna be for a movie. Two, she's doing it intentionally to portray nervousness in the character. When I get really uncomfortable or nervous, sometimes I will start to smile. So maybe it was intentional. But option number three, that's just the actor's resting face. I don't even know why I brought this up. I don't think it's relevant, but I couldn't help myself just noticing it and thinking, she's smiling a lot. That's kind of weird. I eventually landed on, it's not weird. This is probably how my face would look in a situation like this. But reality is, it most likely was completely unintentional, and that's just her resting face, and I'm talking about this for literally no reason. Moving on. There are parts of this movie where the characters are like super emotional because of the situation that they're in. They're like borderline hysterical. And I want to say, sorry, somebody's yelling outside. Oh, I think he's sneezing. That made me a little nervous. That's why I'm smiling. And again, I'm probably going to be in the minority among the people who have seen this, but I thought that acting was really good. I thought that they super accurately portrayed what it would feel like to be in a situation like that. You feel sad, you feel scared, you feel helpless. And this is where I want to point out that there is a lot of yelling in this movie. The majority of the dialogue between the two main characters is just them arguing. I feel like most found footage movies are like this, but yeah, there is a lot of arguing. So to a lot of people, this would probably get really annoying. I feel like I don't really mind excessive arguing in found footage movies as long as the payoff in the end is worth it. I feel like for me, it makes me more anxious, and so it makes me a little more stressed out, and then ends up making whatever else the movie has to offer more effective for me. The way that Sam reacts to a lot of the stuff that happens is probably very similar to the way that I would react. So some people might watch this and be like, oh my god, she's so annoying. But it's real for some people. The movie is only 80 minutes long, so an hour and 20 minutes. It's a nice bite-sized movie, but I paused it halfway through just to see how much longer there was, and I was very surprised to realize that I was only halfway through. And not because so much had happened already, but because they're in the car for so damn long, it felt like I'd been watching for a long time. Like, I'm serious when I say they're in the car for a lot of this movie. Which you would probably expect from reading the description of the movie, but it's a little slow. But weirdly enough, I actually didn't lose interest. A lot of the dialogue is really repetitive, but I think I tolerated the characters enough to the point where I actually was enjoying watching them. The police in this movie are not helpful, and that is not a spoiler because that is what happens in every single horror movie that involves the police, and that is also what happens a lot of the time in real life. For most of the movie, there's not really any dumb decisions made. I feel like actually there are a couple points in the middle of the movie where some people would be like, oh, that's stupid. But they are things that I actually might do in that situation. So maybe I make dumb decisions. But there's always going to be some things that are really important to you, so you just say, fuck it, and you do it anyway. The end is actually where the decision making starts to bother me. We do actually get into dumb decision territory, but I don't know, I feel like that's actually kind of necessary for a movie like this, just to get the story to the end. There is a scene in this movie where they're trying to be very quiet, but Jesus, they're breathing so loud. And they're like whispering, but the kind of whispering that other people can hear. It's not really whispering. But that's a stupid thing to complain about because I know that probably anyone in that situation would be breathing really heavy. Any tense, stressful situation where you're trying to be quiet, you're gonna be breathing really heavily. So you sit through this movie for an hour and 5 minutes, you hit the climax, and nothing happens. I mean, something happens, but oh my god, the payoff in this movie is awful. During the climax, there are some pretty tense scenes, but they don't actually lead anywhere. So I'm gonna make it clear that if you have not seen this movie and you watch it, you are going to feel unsatisfied. It's not gonna feed that little found footage craving in your tummy. Your tummy's gonna be grumbling after this. Mine was. But only a little, actually. I'm kind of easy to please when it comes to found footage. Even really shitty movies with annoying characters and no payoff, I still actually enjoy watching. I don't know why. Something about found footage. It feels like you're hanging out with the people. Maybe it's a lonely people thing. Maybe lonely people like found footage. I don't know. I like feeling like I'm in a scary situation without it actually being dangerous to me at all. Which I guess is all horror. It's not exclusive to found footage. But it's different. The entire thing is like point of view. So I get to pretend like I'm the douchebag with the camera. And that's fun sometimes. I think everyone deserves a little time to just be a douchebag with the camera that gets lost in the woods or murdered by Bigfoot or something. But overall, I did enjoy the performances from the actors. I thought their chemistry was good. I thought their banter was really realistic. And the kid was good too, because I mean, he just sounded like a 12-year-old boy trying to be funny, and to me, that is funny. Interesting plot line, there was a little twist, there was plenty of suspense, anxiety, but they did not give this movie the ending that it deserved. So is it worth a watch? I don't know. Probably not for most people. If you just really like found footage, regardless of whether or not it's like really good, I would recommend watching this just to put another movie on your list. Don't make it like a point to watch it, but if you're bored and just have nothing else to watch, you can turn this on. But if found footage isn't really your thing in the first place, you are not gonna like this movie. All right, now moving on to spoilers. I'm gonna get into a little more detail now, and I'm gonna try to get through it pretty quickly. Not a whole lot of different stuff happens in this movie in the first place, so I don't think it's gonna be that hard. But anyway, so like I said before, Nate and Sam are filming an audition tape for a reality TV show. I think she's gonna do this every time. All right, she wants to be in the video. This is Daisy, by the way. So for the audition, they're essentially just showing their daily lives and like where they work and the stuff that they like to do for fun. And you know, they're very quirky, zany people. So they end up getting in the car and driving to a hill, I guess. It's like a hiking spot, but they want to film a section of their audition on the hill for some reason, just because it looks nice, I guess. They're driving on the freeway, and on the way there, Sam is asking Nate like a list of like personality questions, but Nate is like, oh my God, this sucks. I don't want to do this. They drive past one of those big signs on the freeway that has an Amber Alert on it, and they just quickly acknowledge it like, oh, Amber Alert, that's sad or whatever. And then they end up seeing a gray Honda, which is the description of the car from the Amber Alert. So Sam is just assuming it can't be the same one. It can't be the right one. But Nate is insistent that this could definitely be the right car. And he just wants Sam to stop asking him these questions. They end up passing another freeway sign that has the same Amber Alert on it, and they check the license plate number, and it matches. So Sam calls the police, but she actually ends up being the one that wants to follow the car. And Nate was just being a whiny little bitch. And you can tell by both of their body language that they're actually kind of excited about what's happening. I don't think it's in like an insensitive way, but like a, oh, this is really happening kind of way. Like, you know, the adrenaline spikes through your body. You don't think that you're actually gonna see a car that was in an Amber Alert, a car that could potentially hold someone that is really dangerous. But they just start arguing about the severity of the situation. Sam's like, it might be a kidnapping, abuse, murder kind of situation. And Nate's just like, no, it's like a custody battle. They happen all the time. It's not a big deal. They end up following him to a gas station, but like the entire drive before that is just them arguing about the severity of the situation and whether or not they think it's a big deal. The dude in the car stops to get gas. He gets out of his car and then he goes inside of the market, the station, the mart. What do you call that? So Sam gets out of the car and she runs over to his car and she's trying to look through his windows. His windows are super tinted, but there's a little crack in the window, and then she sees a little girl in the back seat. And she puts her microphone in the car with her so that she can hear what they're saying. So the dude's done, he drives away, they follow him, and they're picking up the signal from the microphone and they have it connected to the car speakers somehow. I don't know how that works. So this is where the dumb decisions come into play. This is something where I think a lot of people would say that she was doing something really dumb. And that's probably true. This is probably not a good idea at all. But if I was in her situation, I might do the same thing. If I know that the cops aren't being helpful and just don't care, I'm probably gonna do what I can to make sure that this girl is okay. He gets back in his car, he drives away, they follow him, and then they're able to pick up the signal from the microphone. And for now, we just hear a really long, boring conversation of him on the phone with his cell phone provider about like, oh, you charged me for too many texts or something. I don't even text that much. But he says like what is probably his address or something. And this is what's weird. He says a number like 1142 or something like that. And he says, yeah, that's where I live. So that's obviously his street address number. And then he ends up saying Sandhill, which later on in the movie they figure out is the name of his street that he lives on. So his address is obviously whatever number he said, Sandhill Street. But then later when they get to his house and they're on the phone with the cops and they're telling them this is where he lives and this girl is in trouble, they bleep out the number. I don't know, little continuity error right there, but I noticed it. Anyway, they drive a lot longer and he ends up pulling off to the side of the road. He's obviously noticed that they've been following him. So Sam grabs the wheel and makes sure that Nate pulls over too. And this, I think, is actually a stupid decision. I would have kept driving. That dude probably has a gun. You can't, what are you gonna do? Confront him? If I cared that much and still wanted to continue this, chase, I would just keep driving and then turn around eventually and try and catch up to him and try and figure out where he went, which I wouldn't be that successful, I guess, but I'm not gonna confront this dude. But he comes up to their car and he talks to them. He seems like a super chill dude. He's like, my wife is crazy. I barely get to see my kids. I had my daughter for a day longer than I was supposed to, and I'm driving to her house right now to drop her off. I already talked to the cops. They know what's happening. Everything's fine. And he offers several times to talk to the police with them so that they understand the situation, or to go wake up his daughter so she can tell them that everything's okay. But Nate's like, no, you don't need to do that. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so sorry that we've been doing this. Sam argues for a while, but then eventually she just gives up and she's like, okay, fine. I guess this is not a big deal. He's probably telling the truth. So they leave, and as they're leaving, they hear over the speakers him admitting that he is not this kid's father. So this dude's obviously a creep, horrible person. He abducted a little girl. We all know why people do that. Not gonna talk about that. So they hear this and Sam is freaking pissed. She starts to get really emotional and yelling a lot, and she starts like crying a little bit. She's freaking out and she is so angry that they let this dude get away. And this bit is so realistic. I was like, if I had been chasing down this car all day and then we finally talked to this guy and we just let him go, I would be pissed. She does a great job here. She's very emotional, very real, very raw. And Nate feels very real too. He feels really guilty. He feels horrible for just believing that dude and letting him get away. So they turn around, drive really fast, weave through a lot of cars, and then they finally catch up to him again. Once they catch up to them, they see a cop car behind them and they're like, yay, this is it. But obviously when you're watching this, you already know what's gonna happen. They get pulled over because they're speeding. The cop is like, oh, oops, okay, we'll go look for him. Just go down to the station and tell them what you know. But they don't do that. Of course they don't do that. They're gonna keep looking. So at this point, they have no idea where this dude is. They end up just like perusing random neighborhoods, trying to look for his car. By this point, the sun is setting. It's basically dark. And it's just more arguing, which is what would really happen in this situation, but it can get old. Nate stops to get some food because he's freaking starving because they haven't eaten all day because they've literally been chasing this dude all day. And Sam finally, while they're sitting down to eat, Googles Sandhill, and she finds out that this is the name of a road in the area that they're in. Now, why didn't she do this before? I don't know. She has a smartphone. She had access to Google the entire time. Don't know why it took her that long to finally look it up. So they end up finding the house because they hear noises over the microphone, so they know that they're nearby. And they sit and listen, and they hear some like metal clanking, and they hear the guy saying some stuff that's alluding to some things. And then the dude says, I'm gonna go buy some candy for our party tonight. So he leaves, and Sam obviously wants to go investigate, but they don't have a flashlight anywhere, so of course, because you have to get everything on camera for this to be a found footage movie, they take the camera with them because it's got a light on it. Her little brother stays in the car, but she makes Nate come with her. Oh yeah, by this point, they have called the cops to tell them that this is where he lives, and they need to come now, and it's an emergency. But they just like don't believe them. They don't really care. This is where we get into dumb decision territory. They break into his house, no weapons, no defense, knowing that he's just quick going to the store to try and get this kid out of the house. Now this is a super selfless act. Nate doesn't want to do this. He doesn't want any of them to get hurt. But Sam really cares about saving this kid before something happens to her. They're looking around for a long time, trying to find her. They can't find her anywhere. They do find a room with like some like little girl like toys and like a bed and a camera on a tripod. And there are some tense scenes in here. There was one scene where Nate was pointing the camera into, like, I don't know, maybe the living room area, and it looked like there was a face. There was like a pile of stuff, and it might have just been a doll, but it was like really creepy, and I don't think it was intentional. I don't think you were really supposed to notice that specifically, but it actually got me a little bit. I don't know if they meant to do that, but I don't even actually know if it was a face. I might have just been imagining that. But that was definitely the most scared I was during the entire movie. It's not much of a compliment. They finally bust into a room, and they find this girl, and she is locked in a cage. She's horrified, and at this point, it's been a long time, and the dude is already back. Caleb calls them and tells them that they need to get outside because he's there, and then they hear gunshots. They finally bust the lock off of the cage, they grab the little girl, and they try to get out of there. They're running, and this is where they're trying to be quiet. They've got the camera light off, and it's just dark for a couple minutes. And they keep whispering too, but you know, the kind of whispering that's like, hey, I'm gonna go over here, and it's like not really whispering. You can very clearly hear what they're saying. And then after a decent period of complete darkness, Nate turns the light back on, and we get a shot of the dude holding up a gun, pointing it at Sam's head. And bam, he shoots her. And then you just hear a bunch of other gunshots, and then it's silent for a second, and then the little girl screams, and that's the end of the movie. I sat through that entire movie just to watch them get shot and die within 5 seconds? I feel like that's a little rude. Just give me a little more substance, please. The tension of them in the house was cool, but then it was just over. Like that. So Nate and the other man actually shot each other and both ended up dying, which is just, I don't know, it's just so lame. Caleb lived, he got shot in the shoulder, that was it. And then the little girl lived, obviously, because we just hear her scream, and that's the end of the movie. So yeah, this movie was very underwhelming. You just got a lot of the same thing over and over and over again, just so much arguing and driving, and that's it for almost the entire movie. So yeah, I don't know, I guess I don't even have a lot of like critique for this movie. It's just could have done a lot more with this. And this is obviously a very low budget movie. I have no idea what the budget was, but I'm assuming with a bigger budget, they would have been able to give a more satisfying ending. But it was still a fun ride. It was a pretty fun hour-long car chase I went on with them. I mean, I guess it wasn't really fun. I still liked watching it for some reason. All right, well, that's gonna be it for this video. Like I said at the beginning, I think I wanna watch more low budget, more unknown horror movies. I just think it's fun to watch movies that nobody ever talks about. So if you're into that too, you should subscribe. But yeah, if you liked it, you can click the like button. I don't know where it is. Or comment and tell me if you've seen it, if you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you want to see it, anything like that. And that's it. And I would love to see you next time. Bye.